When Iowa State hired TJ Otzelberger in 2021, you could very easily make the case that the Cyclones were fresh off their worst season in school history. Finishing 2-22, Iowa State had matched their lowest win total since 1925, and after an uninspiring 5-year stint in Ames that saw the program finish under 500 in 3 of those 5 seasons, Steve Prohm was fired and in came Otzelberger, a 43-year-old upstart most known for his time at South Dakota State with Mike Daum, but also for his 2 separate tenures at Iowa State under Greg McDermott and Fred Hoiberg respectively. Widely heralded for his recruiting chops, Otzelberger immediately managed to turn Iowa State back into one of the premier programs in the Midwest, winning 22 games in his first year and earning a berth in the Sweet 16 after basically rebuilding the team from scratch. In year 2, Otzelberger once again led the Cyclones to the NCAA tournament, this time losing as a 6th seed in the first round, but the seeds had been planted for the growth of an elite program. And now, in year 3, we're really starting to see Otzelberger's Cyclones blossom. Through 26 games this year, Iowa State is 20-6, is in contention to win the Big 12 despite being picked to finish 7th in the preseason poll, are currently ranked 6th in the latest AP poll, which is the highest since 2015, and they once again have leveraged Hilton Magic as they haven't lost a home game this year. Behind an energized fan base, a suffocating defense, and a penchant for the dramatic, Iowa State is in a decent position to reach their first Final Four since 1944. And I have to imagine this one would be a lot more meaningful considering the 1944 tournament only had 8 teams. But anyway, let's talk about the Cyclones and why they've become such a juggernaut. As someone who grew up during the Hoiberg era in Ames, I've come to equate Iowa State with offense. But under Otzelberger, it's been Iowa State's defense that has propelled this program back to national relevance. Iowa State has placed in the top 10 in defensive efficiency in each of Otzelberger's 3 years, and this season has been the crown jewel, as the Cyclones currently rank 2nd nationally in adjusted defense per Bart Torvik, and more than just the overall numbers, Iowa State makes life a living hell for opposing offenses. They force turnovers, they harass ball handlers, they switch up looks, and they flat out bully you with their physicality. In fact, here's Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson raving about Iowa State.
I want to give a shout out and much respect to Coach TJ and Iowa State. I mean, that's the toughest team there is in America. When you beat Iowa State, you know that's an accomplishment because they're so good and they're so tough. So
Iowa State's 25.7% forced turnover rate is the 2nd best in America, and a big reason for this is their absolutely insane ball pressure. The Cyclones have 3 guards who combined average an absurd 6 steals per game, and each of them have their own unique attributes that make them such a pain to deal with. First up is Tamin Lipsey. A 6-foot sophomore from Ames, Lipsey thrives as a point-of-attack defender who gives multiple efforts and has extremely quick hands. His 2.8 steals per game is a top 5 mark in America, and he's also one of the best pick-and-roll defenders because of his relentless pursuit of the ball. Per synergy, opponents turn the ball over around 37% of the time when Lipsey guards them in ball screens, and what's even more impressive is that they're only shooting 32% from the floor in these situations as well. While Lipsey isn't that big, his incredible positional awareness and defensive feel makes up for any size discrepancies he may face, and this allows him to be one of the most impactful defenders in the country. Watch here how he initially gets caught in a screen, but then hustles his way back to Max Asmus where he deflects a pass and steals the ball. And even if Lipsey does get beat on a drive, he still makes up for it because of his determination and smarts. Here, he loses a half step to his man on the ball, but is able to recover and use his lightning quick hands to rip him from behind and force a turnover. Joining Lipsey in the starting lineup and in the backcourt is Keyshawn Gilbert, a wiry 6'4" swingman who is in his first year at Iowa State after 2 seasons at UNLV, and he's become the athletic enforcer of this Iowa State defense, as he has elite lateral quickness and the functional strength to stonewall drives. Gilbert's 1.6 steals per game are 3rd on the team behind Lipsey and Jones, and his overall activity just flat out overwhelms opponents. Gilbert's ability to stifle any dribble move or shot attempt is second to none, and he grades out as one of the best isolation defenders in America. Here, Gilbert will do a really good job at moving his feet and guarding with his chest to prevent the initial drive, and then he stays engaged with the ball reversal before trapping his man in the corner, which ultimately forces a bad pass and of course another turnover. Finally, there's Curtis Jones, who actually comes off the bench for the Cyclones but still delivers as an elite perimeter defender thanks to his ability to navigate ball screens and rotate with quickness. Jones came to Iowa State by way of Buffalo, where he was actually an All-MAC performer last year, and this year he averages 1.7 steals a game thanks to his disruptive length and anticipation skills. Here, while guarding the wing, Jones will read the eyes of Javion McCollum, jump the passing lane, and force a steal. With these three together, Iowa State is great at making teams take tough shots. The Cyclones only allow 15.6 points at the rim per game, which is the lowest in Division I, and the main reason behind this is that their guards simply refuse to allow penetration. Only 30.2% of Iowa State's allowed field goal attempts come at the rim, which is the third least in America, and what this leads to is a lot of contested outside shots, which Iowa State will live with if it means taking away easy ones at the rim. And even if teams can get to the rim, Iowa State has two big guys in Robert Jones and Hassan Ward, who are both very mobile and adept shot blockers to provide a last line of defense. Here's a play that puts everything together. In transition, Keyshawn Gilbert will initially cut off the drive, which eventually forces a pass to the corner where Curtis Jones is there to prevent an initial shot attempt, which prompts Milan Momcilovic to rotate and help contest the three. Iowa State does give up an offensive rebound, but Robert Jones is right there to block the second shot. But of course, defense can only take you so far. I mean, if you look at every national champion since 2015, they've all finished top 10 or better in adjusted offensive efficiency entering the NCAA tournament. And while Iowa State isn't really close to that threshold, they still have been respectable enough on that end to warrant Final Four consideration. The Cyclones have a balanced scoring attack that boasts 6 guys scoring over 8 points a game, and they currently rank 30th in offensive efficiency per Bartorvik. And believe me, teams have gotten to the Final Four with worse than that, namely San Diego State last year, for example. The key with San Diego State, though, was that they had guys who they could count on to make shots like Matt Bradley and Lamont Butler, and luckily for Iowa State, I think they're in that same category. Much like on defense, Iowa State's backcourt really paces them offensively, as Lipsy and Gilbert average a combined 27 points and 9 assists per game, but in addition to them, they also have 6'8 freshman Milan Momcilovic, who is really good at getting to his spots and rising over the top of defenders to knock down jump shots, and this level of self-created scoring has already come into handy in late game situations.
10 to shoot for Iowa State. Gilbert goes inside to the freshman, spins, and hits a near impossible angle for Milan Momcilovic.
Momcilovic gives Iowa State some much-needed bailout scoring potential, as he's great at drawing fouls and finishing through contact at the rim, while also serving as a floor spacer who knocks down 38% of his threes. In addition to him, though, Iowa State also has Trey King as a mismatch forward who does well as a cutter and rim finisher, and Curtis Jones also chips in 10 points a game as well and can knock down threes with consistency. So while Iowa State's offense isn't as efficient as its defense, I think it does enough to get by thanks to its variety of guys who can score and their ability to turn their defense into offense in fast break scenarios, where the Cyclones average around 14 points a game. So, in just 3 years, TJ Otzelberger has turned a 2-win team into a legitimate national championship contender. And perhaps what's even more shocking is that he's done it by embracing a grinding defensive style that probably would have seemed like a different language to Iowa State fans just a decade ago. Regardless of the style, though, I think it's safe to say that the Cyclones are officially back. And while it seems like Otzelberger's dominance is just getting started, it's certainly not out of the question that Iowa State could make some legitimate NCAA tournament noise as early as this year. Thanks so much for watching, and give me your thoughts below.